I learned how to wake up before the sun. It wasn't a choice, it was survival. There's a kind of silence that only exists before dawn. A cold silence. The kind that slips through the window and reminds you of everything you still have to endure. I used to wake up inside that silence every single day. 4:30 a.m. I would get up slowly so I wouldn't wake my son. Our house was small. Every step echoed. I made coffee on the stove. Same routine, same thought. Just one more day. My name is Helena. I'm a housekeeper. And for a long time, I believed this was simply my life. Not a choice, not destiny, just what was left for me. I took the 5:12 bus every morning. Same driver, same tired faces, same heavy air. The bus rocked gently while the sky was still dark, and I would stare out the window, thinking about nothing and everything. When I arrived in a neighborhood where I worked, it felt like another country. Tall gates, perfect lawns, houses that never looked tired. The house I worked in had a different kind of silence, a comfortable one, but it was never mine. I had the key to the back door, always the back door. 12 years in that house. 12 years knowing exactly where every plate was, every towel, every glass. I helped raise 2 children there. I saw their first steps, heard their first words, wiped tears no one else noticed. But I was never family, just Helena. And then there was that day. It was ordinary, nothing dramatic. I was cleaning the kitchen and felt thirsty. I opened the cabinet, grabbed a glass. Just a glass. I lifted it to drink, and my employer walked in. She looked at me, then at the glass, and she smiled, polite, calm. "Helena, that glass is ours. Yours is over there." She pointed to a small plastic cup near the sink. Light, separate, assigned. I apologized. I still don't know why. I put the glass back and kept cleaning. But something had shifted. It wasn't about the glass. It was about being reminded, again, of where I stood. And that day, something started hurting in a new way. After that, I started noticing things I used to ignore. She began locking her bedroom when she left. I pretended not to notice. She counted silverware before going out. I pretended not to notice. Questions became softer, but sharper. "You didn't see my purse, right?" Always smiling. Never neutral. And the worst part wasn't the suspicion. It was what it did to me inside. I began watching my own movements, walking lighter, touching less. I started shrinking inside that house. Being a Black woman teaches you that early. You learn to lower your voice, take up less space, be grateful for things that were never gifts. One night, my son asked me, "Mom, do you like your job?" I answered too fast. Yes. But the question stayed with me. Because the truth was, I liked working. I didn't like being invisible. I finished school, tried other jobs. But interviews always ended the same way. A look, a pause, a decision made before I even spoke. One afternoon, my employer's daughter came home crying. Kids at school told her hair was ugly. I sat on the floor with her, held her braids gently, and told her, "Your hair is a crown." She smiled. But that night, when I got home, I stared at my own reflection for a long time. I remembered every time someone said, "You're pretty for a Black woman." Those words don't make noise when they enter, but they echo once they live inside you. Weeks later, an earring went missing. The house felt different that day. Too quiet, too careful. She didn't accuse me, but she didn't defend me either, and that was worst. I finished work with a weight pressing on my chest. On the bus home, I didn't look out the window. I just stared at my hands. These hands that raised children that weren't mine. These hands that cooked and cleaned and carried. And for the first time in my life, I thought, maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe I was never the problem. And when that thought is born, it changes everything. The next morning I quit. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. She looked surprised. "What are you going to do?" That question. Always that question. as if the world had no space for me outside her house. I answered before fear could stop me. I'm going to exist. I didn't have a plan. I started small, braiding hair for girls in my neighborhood. Then their mothers came. Then their friends. And something shifted. I wasn't just doing hair. I was restoring reflections. Black women sat in my chair tired and left taller, stronger, seen. I changed too. I realized it was never about my ability, never about effort. It was about the lens people use to look at me. Being a Black woman isn't about strength because we chose it. It's strength because we survived, because we endured being underestimated, because we carried entire households without being acknowledged. Today, when I look back, I don't think about the glass anymore. I think about the moment I stopped apologizing for existing. If you are a Black woman watching this, you were never small. You were never less than. You were never despite. You are origin. You are legacy. You are power in a world that wasn't ready to recognize it. Being a Black woman isn't a burden. It's history. And history cannot be erased. Not by silence. Not by doubt. Not by a glass that was never meant to define you.